Hi, Rob. Sorry, for the audience, this is John Knight, and I'm interviewing Robert Mast. I'm your father-in-law, but he's a good chap, and we get along. And the idea of this chat here is to just give you a little bit of an idea of who Robert is, where he's from, what he does, and what his cultural heritage involves, and the intricacies of parts of Robert's culture. Robert is an Indigenous Australian man, yes, and you're not a mainland Aboriginal, are you?
No.
You're a Torres Strait Islander. So let me explain this in a simple way. There are two types of Indigenous Australians. There are mainland Aboriginals and there are Torres Strait Islanders. And the easiest way to explain this to non-Australians is that French people and German people are very different. They're French and they're German. They are, however, both Europeans. So Torres Strait Islanders and Aboriginals are Indigenous Australians. We were talking about where you're from, who you are, and we've discussed the differences between mainland Aboriginal people and Torres Strait Islanders, and we've talked about totems, and you've mentioned that your totem is the horny stingray, and its proper name is Tupmul?
Yeah.
Tupmul. Can you say that? Because I don't think I'm pronouncing it properly.
Tupmul.
Tupmul. Okay.
Yeah.
And we got as far as explaining that you had some influences from Papua New Guinea, a lot less influences from mainland Australia, and that you have a gardening culture that basically if you don't grow anything, you're not going to eat, as opposed to a mainland culture where you can gather ungardened. And when you're saying hunting, the rare event before time, as in pre-contact with white people, was the occasional pig. But as a Torres Strait Islander, when you talk about hunting, you are specifically referencing harvesting protein from the ocean.
Yes.
What are the sorts of things that you hunt in the ocean?
Well, the main things are turtle and dugong.
Right.
And also the stingray. The
Okay.
same stingray which comes once a year. But most of it is turtle and dugong because they're the big meat.
Right.
Fish is all year round.
Okay.
And dugong and turtle comes in seasons.
So just coming back to this, in this, and I'm saying protein harvesting, you're saying hunting, you fish year round, and things like turtle and dugong are available seasonally depending on what their migration patterns are.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, for the audience, the dugong is the Western Pacific first cousin to what the East Coast Americans and South Americans would know as a manatee.
Yes.
But they have a different tail?
Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about these two protein sources. What do they taste like? What does turtle taste like? Or is it not comparable to any other sort of Western source of meat? So turtle has red meat?
Turtle has red meat and there's white meat as well on it.
There's white meat. So if we were going to make a comparison, a young turtle might have meat that's like veal,
Yes.
for example.
Yes.
And you could cook it the same way,
Basically, yes.
and it would more or less taste the same way.
You can eat everything on it, yes.
And you can eat everything out of the turtle.
Yep.
So that would mean heart, liver, lungs,
Yes.
intestines,
Yes.
everything.
Yes.
So everything that's inside the shell is edible.
Yeah. And the flippers as well.
And the flippers as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Everything.
Right.
Except for the bone.
Right. So we're talking about the meat. What colour's the fat in turtle?
Well, that's why they call them green turtles. It's not because of the color of the shell or anything like that, because the color's variation is very different to, they can have brown shells or black shells even, dark green to bluish type, but they call them green turtles because the fat is green.
Ah, so the fat is green.
Yes.
That's interesting. Okay. Right, so we were talking about turtles. Now let's talk about dugong. And you've said just now that the scientists reckon they're related to elephants.
Yes.
Wow,
Well,
that's
Yeah, I don't know that, but
But you've heard that. Okay.
and it's a big source of meat. It feeds the whole village.
Okay, so an adult dugong, how many kilos would that be live?
Probably about 300 kilos.
300 kilos.
Yes.
Of those 300 kilos, what is edible?
Everything. Nothing goes to waste except for what's inside the intestines.
Okay, so the contents of the intestines would get washed out,
Yes.
and then you'd eat the intestines, the tubes. So that's like an Italian sausage, because they do the same thing with pigs.
Yeah.
All right. So everything in the dugong is edible. What about the bones? What happens with those?
We do a lot of carvings with the bones and the rib bones because they're solid. They're not hollow like land animals. They're actual solid.
So a solid bone as well.
Yes, so we can use them for arrow tips and pendants. It all depends. So to say where you come from or what totem you come from, because a lot of them make little pendants out of the bones.
Dibidib? That's what we're talking about, or not? Something
Yes.
else? Yes. Okay. So, is that like ivory?
Yes.
So the bones are like ivory, or?
Yes. It's nearly as good as ivory. Well, you might.
Okay, so Rob, we've been talking for probably 20 minutes already.
Yes.
I've got another question. Your name is Robert Mast.
Yes.
I've not heard the name Mast used in Australia other than when I knew you. Is there a story behind your surname?
Yes. When the missionaries first come to the island, to Badu Island, they met my great grandfather, and he was tall and skinny, so they called him Mast, and that's basically how I got my surname, like the boat mast.
Okay. Well, that's fascinating heritage.
Before then, they used to use the totems to find out which family they come from.
Okay, so pre-contact, your surname would be your totem name.
Yes.
So you would otherwise have been known in a different generation as Robert Tukmul.
Basically, yeah.
So is that custom still carried on now? Are you known internally, for want of a better word, are you known as Robert Tukmul?
No, but yes, then again, yes, they know which tribe you come from because of your grandparents and all that. So they put it towards that as they know exactly which totem you come from. But nowadays, since the surnames have come in, there's a lot of confusion amongst the young people, and it's starting to cause a bit of
right. So you've got boyfriends and girlfriends who shouldn't otherwise necessarily be holding hands.
Because before, our women didn't come from the same island.
Right. So you'd always marry off island.
You'd have to go to furthest islands.
Right.
Either to New Guinea or even to mainland Australia. The women tell you the fact, but before, all the female babies that were born on the island were actually buried alive or get their chopped off.
Right. Okay. So to prevent genetic faults.
Yes. Exactly.
Okay. So let's just pursue that a little bit before we wrap it up. When you say that the women would come from another island, right? Would that necessarily involve inter-island trade, that you'd send some adult women to another island in exchange for adult women to come back, or would it be more like perhaps an arranged marriage, or would it be more like Saturday night, boys, let's go and raid the neighbouring island and get some girls?
That's probably.
So it's more like a headhunting raid could also be a girl hunting raid, and
yes,
they'd be returned to your relative island, willing or otherwise.
Yes,
is the polite way of saying.
Yes.
Okay.
And a lot of the captives were also used for initiation purposes, but but we also have trading posts. Like the furthest we ever traded was down to Lockhart River.
Okay, so just so people listening to this know, that's about 360 kilometres down the eastern side of Cape York. Okay.
And that's where we did a lot of the trades. Anyone in between is not a trading post. So
right.
It's a raiding party.
Yeah.
But now, to this day, Lockhart is nearly half Badu as well, married into the Aboriginal.
So with that family connection, is there a lot of cultural exchange as well? So there might be, say, some Badu language words spoken in Lockhart?
Yes.
And there might be some Lockhart Aboriginal words spoken on Badu?
Not so much, but the elders that used to do the buttering, they do speak island language fluently.
Okay, so the elder Aboriginal people from Lockhart would be fluent in, what's the correct term for your name?
Kalalagoya is my language.
Say that again, please. Kalalagoya?
Kalalagoya. Kala means behind, lago means island, ya means word. So, like behind the island word or talk.
Okay, so that language, as opposed to a dialect, that language was spoken reasonably fluent in your furthest trading post?
Yes.
Wow, fascinating. And how long ago was this?
Will be early 19th century.
Okay, so 1820s, 1830s.
Yes.
That sort of time. Wow. Anything else in particular that you'd like to share with us today, Robert?
Yeah, well, like you said before, if there was any trading that was going on and all this, we did traded ochre from the Aboriginals.
Right.
Certain types of ochre, very hard to get because we didn't have so much ochre on the islands ourselves. And the Lockhart mob, they really wanted the island drums because they used that as their sacred objects.
Wow.
And we used the woomera of theirs, which we call in our language as well as Kuba. We use the woomera as well.
So again, for the audience, the woomera is a spear thrower.
Yes.
And by using it, you effectively increase the power of, well, the velocity of the spear leaving the man's arm by about, I think it's an increase of 2/3, or was it 300%? 2/3, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it adds a lot of power.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's interesting. So you have use for ochre in your cultural heritage, and
Yes.
so for stuff like law, weddings, funerals, births, that sort of stuff, adult initiation, so teenagers becoming adults, there's ceremony to go through, and that involves ochre as well.
We also do rock paintings.
You also do rock painting with ochre.
Yeah.
So you have cave systems on Badu that have rock painting in them.
Yes.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with us, Robert? This is thoroughly enlightening, I must say.
Well,
Or are we good
depends
for
how
today?
further we get into it, I suppose.
Okay, well look, let's call that a wrap for tonight, and if there's further stuff we should talk about, maybe we'll take it up another time.
Yes.
Robert, can I thank you thoroughly for your time, for your cultural knowledge that you've so generously shared with us today, and we look forward to hearing from you in the near future.
No worries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert. Good evening.